pleased to be joined by aficionado of Sri Lanka cricket, of world cricket, Aruna Amirthanaya. Welcome, Amirta. Now, you spent your career in the diplomatic service, so but you're also very knowledgeable about cricket. Have the two gone hand in hand?
Actually, yes. I've been very fortunate that, I grew up in cricket-playing countries in Sri Lanka and the UK, but I spent my professional career in the US for the US Foreign Service. And so I was able to sort of get a few assignments in cricket-playing countries. And I think, being able to practice cricket diplomacy was probably one of the highlights of my professional career. So
there's a few that could learn. There's a few that could learn from you on that. So we're previewing the Sri Lanka series, England versus Sri Lanka, the second half of the summer. It starts on Wednesday at Old Trafford. Now, some of the names on the Sri Lanka team will be unfamiliar to a lot of viewers. How good a team are Sri Lanka? And I'm thinking of the two opening bowlers, the two Fernandos,
right?
Who've both played some county cricket this year.
Right.
They weren't playing in the warm-up match. How do you rate? Let's talk about the bowling attack of Sri Lanka, because they're going to have to take 20 wickets to win a match. Should we be watching out for the two Fernandos?
I think so. I think they're very underrated. They both have good test records, and not just in Asia. I mean, they've played overseas as well. They are, we have a Asita, who played for a few games for Notts at the end of last season, and Vishwa Fernando, who played a few games for Yorkshire. I think they will do better than people expect them to. They haven't played Test cricket in England before, but I think they will be players to watch out for. And of course, the third seamer, it's not clear yet who Sri Lanka will pick. I think they might go for Lahiru Kumara, who has played a bit against England. He did well in the ODI World Cup, actually, against England. He's the fastest of the three. He's a little more wayward, but I think he would be probably the best pick for number 3, the third seamer, actually.
When you think about the spinners, Sri Lanka, historically, Sri Lanka's strength with the likes of Herat and, of course, Murali. Anyone in that class, you've got the captain as your main spinner. And tell us about the spin attack.
Well, the captain is really more of a batting all-rounder. I mean,
Jaya De Silva.
Yes. The main spinner is actually Prabhat Jayasuriya, who has a remarkable test record. I think it's about 71 wickets in 12 tests. Right. Mostly on sprint-friendly tracks in Sri Lanka. So if he does get a turning wicket, he's a very effective bowler. I suspect, though, at Old Trafford, he may struggle a little bit, but he's the leading spinner. And I suspect the second spinner will probably be an all-rounder. I mean, Dhananjaya bowls spin. We have an interesting bowler named Kamindu Mendis, who's actually ambidextrous. He bowls right arm and left arm. And he's a very good batsman as well. He's, I think, averaging, close to 100 in Test cricket, just on the basis of 2 or 3 tests. He played against Bangladesh recently. So I think there are some names that are going to surprise, English fans here.
He's ambidextrous. And then the long tradition of Sri Lankan mystery spinners.
That's right. Yeah, we've had quite a number, ranging from, of course, from Murali, Ajanta Mendes. We had so many over the years. So I think he'll be a new addition to that list.
The first name you mentioned there, Jayasuriya, a familiar name to English listeners, viewers. Right. And I'm pleased to see, personally, one of my favorite cricketers, Jayasuriya, Sunil Jayasuriya? Sanat Jayasuriya has re-emerged as the coach of Sri Lanka. And they've done pretty well since he took over from Chris Silverwood, who didn't have a great record for England, and he hasn't done a great job for Sri Lanka either. So is there a bit more optimism in the camp since Jayasuriya has taken over?
I think so. I think he has sort of breathed some new life into Sri Lankan cricket. Of course, he's had an excellent start. Sri Lanka beat India, as you know, for the first time in a bilateral ODI series since 1997. They just won that series 2-0 with a tied match as well as in the third game. So that's an excellent start. And I think his kind of enthusiasm and his experience in England will be a great benefit to Sri Lanka in this Test series.
The series against India, and did they win the T20 as well?
They did lose the T20s, but they were relatively close.
Yeah.
Although a cautionary note would be that a lot of the players, the white ball players, are not in this, in the squad here, because Sri Lanka tends to have, some specialist white ball players like, Hasaranga, for example. Or,
let's talk about let's talk about the batting.
Sure.
In particular, English punters will be looking at the highest scoring batter. Who would you say? Look, we don't know the team selection yet, but who would your pick be for highest scoring batter in the first innings of the first Test on Wednesday?
I would have to put my money on Dimuth Karunaratne. I think, you look at his record, he has scored more runs than any other Test opener in the past 5 years, averaging over 50. And again, a very underrated player. I would put my money on him. Although, Sri Lanka has 5 out of the top 6 batsmen averaging over 40 in Test cricket. So you've got some solid players. You've got Angelo Matthews, you've got Dinesh Chandimal, you've got Dimuth Karunaratne. All 3 of them have toured England twice, in 2014 and 2016. Angelo Matthews has scored Test hundreds, I think at Leeds, Lords as well. I think he got 100.
That's interesting. That's very interesting because obviously we just had the West Indies series, and there you had a very inexperienced top order for West Indies with only a handful of Test matches between them. But this Sri Lanka team, you're telling us, has got some very senior Test match players with a lot of experience, probably a stronger side than the white ball side.
I think so. I mean, you look at the batsmen. I mean, Matthews, Chandimal, Karunaratne, they all played in 2016, the last time that Sri Lanka toured England. And I think England only has Joe Root left from that batting lineup.
What happened in that series, that last home series? What happened in England?
The last home series, Sri Lanka lost 2016, I believe. No, sorry, 2014 series, Sri Lanka won for the first time ever a series in England. There were a couple of famous Test matches in that series. That the Lords Test match was down to the last over, and Sri Lanka saved the game. And then the Leeds match was another last over thriller, which Sri Lanka won. I think Anderson got out in the last over or something. I remember that was a thrilling series. That was Sri Lanka's first ever win in England.
But we won't have Anderson in the England team, but then we won't have Stokes either. Stokes sustaining an injury in the 100 tournament. I'll leave that unspoken about the collateral damage that's been caused there. But, he's pulled a hamstring playing in the 100. He really should have been wrapped up in cotton wool for this Test series, but he's now out of the series. The captain will be Ollie Pope. They're going to miss Stokes' all-round role. So given that and the experience of this Sri Lanka lineup, your prediction for the series, the 3-match series, what do you see Sri Lanka taking a Test match?
I do, actually. I think there will be much stronger opposition than the West Indies. And the West Indies, don't forget, ran England pretty close at Trent Bridge. It was all even until that very last session. Yeah. And even in Edgbaston, I think they had England at 55 for 4 at one stage.
Right.
So I do think Sri Lanka has a much stronger batting lineup than the West Indies. The bowling perhaps would be comparable, I would say. So I think, of course, I would like Sri Lanka to do well, and I'm quite an optimist. I would say England is likely to win the series. My prediction would be 2-1 England. But I do think Sri Lanka will spring a surprise.
You've watched a lot of cricket. You've watched a lot of England cricket. Your assessment, please, of this England team. How good a Test team are they?
I think they're a good team, but there are some weaknesses there, especially now with Stokes out and Crawley also injured. I think it's going to be an interesting choice in the selection here. Are they going to strengthen the batting by adding Jordan Cox, or are they going to strengthen the bowling by adding, Ollie Stone or Potts? So I suspect they'll go with the bowling, because I think they reckon that Sri Lanka's batting is stronger than its bowling, so they might need, an extra bowler to kind of get through Sri Lanka. But I do think that, the tail is a bit long now, especially if they add, say, if Potts or Stone comes in. So they'll be kind of reliant on the top order to get runs. I do think it's a very good fielding team. They've got, under Stokes' leadership, I think they really gelled together well. There are a few weaknesses here and there. And you look at the World Test Championship. I mean, Sri Lanka's in fourth place. England is down the list somewhere at 6, I think now. So, and Sri Lanka has all the momentum going for it. I mean, they won their last 3 Test matches, albeit against Bangladesh and Afghanistan. But so I think they're coming in with some confidence. And so I think we're in for a good series, much closer than most people are reckoning, I believe. So anyway, I'll be there at Manchester, so hopefully we'll have a good Test match.
Indeed. Well, you've certainly whet our appetite for that first Test that starts on Wednesday, the first of 3 Test matches, England, Sri Lanka. And the familiar sight of Sanat Jayasuriya will be in the dugout as the coach. And you're saying also, and watch out for Angela Matthews, who got a 50 in the warm-up match. Kunakaratne is your selection, very experienced left-handed opening back. Also played county cricket with some success for top bat. And we're looking out for the 2 Fernandos, and in particular, the 2 spinners that you mentioned, the Jayasuriya, his first name?
Prabhat
Jayasuriya. And of course, the captain, Dhananjaya De Silva. And your wild card would be the spinner you mentioned.
Amindu Mendes, yes.
Amindu Mendes. So lots to look forward to. And Aruna, I hope you enjoyed the match, and we look forward to talking to you during the rest of the series.
Excellent. Good, David. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you.